Okay, welcome everyone to the deep dive.
Hello.
Today we're cracking open some really, well, ancient wisdom. It's found in the commentaries on the Dhammapada.
That's right. And these texts, they often use stories, narratives to explain the verses, makes complex ideas much more, digestible.
Absolutely, like parables almost, but with the explanation built right in.
Exactly. They take a short verse and just flesh it out with a story.
And the particular story we're digging into today is called The Story of the Two Brahmins. And on the surface, it sounds almost, well, simple, maybe even a bit funny.
It definitely starts with a classic rivalry. You've got these two Brahmins, and they're both incredibly proud of their prize bulls.
Right. One's named Kalarohita, the other Maharohita. Big Red and Little Red, essentially.
Something like that, yeah. And they get into this argument, whose bull is actually stronger?
The age-old question. So how do they decide to settle it?
Well, they go for a good old-fashioned test of strength. Brute force. They get a cart.
And they don't just get a cart, they load it up, right?
Yeah.
The texts say they really pile sand into it.
Oh, yeah. Make it incredibly heavy. The idea is to push even these famous bulls to their absolute limit.
So, okay, scene set. Heavy cart, bank of the Asarvati River. That's the stage for this bovine showdown.
And just at that moment, who happens to be nearby?
Yes. A group of monks.
Exactly. The commentaries mentioned they were there maybe washing robes or bathing. Anyway, they saw the whole thing unfold.
A convenient audience, turns out.
You could say that.
So the Brahmins, they hitch up their respective bulls to this massive cart.
Yeah.
You can almost feel the anticipation.
Oh, definitely. The Brahmins are probably puffing out their chests, totally convinced their bull is the champion. They're shouting, urging them on.
Hold up, go low.
And
What happens?
The cart doesn't move. Not an inch. It's just completely stuck.
Despite the bull's supposed incredible strength.
Despite everything, the weight is just too much. Immovable.
But wait, something does break, right?
Yes, exactly. That's the key detail. It's not the cart that breaks, and it's not the bulls. It's the straps.
The external stuff. The ropes, the harnesses connecting the bulls to the cart. The text calls them nadivarata.
Those specific straps, yes. They snap under the strain.
And this is what the monks notice.
It is. They see this immense effort, the cart going nowhere, and these, seemingly ordinary ropes just giving way. It strikes them as significant.
So they take this observation back to the teacher, back at Jetavana Monastery.
And this is where, the everyday incident becomes a profound teaching. The teacher hears their story about the ropes.
The physical ropes breaking.
Yes. And he immediately sort of pivots the conversation. He acknowledges it, sure. He says, those external straps, the physical ones.
Yeah, what about them?
They're easy to cut. That's his point. Anyone can slice a rope. It's no big deal, spiritually speaking.
Right. They're just external things, visible, tangible. Their breaking isn't the real lesson here. It's almost trivial in a way.
Precisely. So the teacher then shifts the focus completely. He says the real task, the significant challenge, especially for someone, walking the path,
Is what?
is to cut the internal straps.
Internal straps. Okay, that's a powerful metaphor. What are these inner bonds? Did he identify them?
He did, and he cleverly used terms that kind of mirrored the physical ones the monks saw break. He talked about kodanadi and antalavara.
Okay, let's break those down. Kodanadi. Nadi was the strap, right? So kodha must be anger.
You got it. Kodaha is anger. The commentary explains navi here as that which binds or ties you up because of anger. So, yeah, the binding strap of anger.
And the other one, tanha varata. Varata was the rope, I think. So tanha must be craving.
Correct again. Tanha is craving. And vara here signifies that craving acting as a bond, a fetter, the rip of craving.
Wow. So he's taking the image the monks literally just saw, snapping ropes and straps and turning it inward. He's saying the real things holding us back are these invisible bonds of anger and craving.
That's the core of it. And he didn't stop there. He then laid out a verse, a stanza, that expands on this whole idea.
The verse that ties it all together.
Right. And it gets even deeper. The verse says you need to cut the nadi varatanyaka. That's the anger and craving we just discussed.
Okay.
But then it adds sandhanaya sanakamai. Now that phrase, it sounds a bit complex.
It does. Santanai Sahanakamai. What's that about?
Well, the commentary is really helpful here. It explains sandhana as like a joint or a connection.
A connection.
And sanakama as something that goes along with or follows from our underlying tendencies or predispositions, deep-seated stuff.
Latent tendencies. Okay. So a connection linked to latent tendencies. Yeah. What kind of connection?
Specifically, the commentary identifies this whole phrase, samara sanokama, as referring to the connection of the 62 wrong views. Dasatya dihanzanhana.
62 wrong views. Wow. So it's not just the, let's say, raw emotions like anger and craving. It's also about these deeply ingrained wrong ideas, fixed beliefs about how things are.
Exactly. Fundamental misunderstandings about reality. Those create connections, links that also bind us very tightly. The commentary points to those 62, but the general idea is clear. Faulty views are also internal straps.
So anger, craving, and wrong views. That's quite a set of internal bonds.
It is. And the verse continues. It describes the person who has managed to cut all of these as ukita paliga.
Ukita Pali. But yeah, isn't that like a big bar? A crossbar used to block a gate or a door.
Yes, exactly, a heavy bar. And ukita means lifted up or raised, removed.
So someone who has lifted the bar. But wait, the bulls didn't lift the bar. They couldn't move the cart, which was effectively blocked. What bar is being lifted here?
And that's the beauty of the metaphor again. The commentary clarifies this isn't a physical bar, it's the bar of ignorance. Avijja paliya.
Ignorance. Avijja. So the ultimate obstacle, the thing really blocking the way, isn't the heavy cart outside. It's this massive bar of ignorance inside us.
That's the teaching. Ignorance in the Buddhist sense, meaning the fundamental lack of understanding about, the true nature of reality, the Four Noble Truths and so on.
And lifting that bar, removing that fundamental ignorance, that's the real heavy lifting.
That's the key to liberation, to seeing clearly. And the verse culminates, it ends by saying that such a person, one who has cut anger, craving, wrong views, and lifted this bar of ignorance, one who is Buddha, meaning awakened.
Yes.
Tamaha brumi brahmantanti. That one, the teacher says, I call a Brahmin.
Wow. That one I call a Brahmin. What a complete redefinition.
It just throws out the whole idea of being a Brahmin by birth or by caste or social standing.
It's not about who your parents were or what rituals you performed.
Or not at all. In this teaching, a true Brahmin, a truly noble person, is defined entirely by their inner state, by this achieved inner freedom.
So the whole story, the bulls straining, the physical ropes snapping easily, it all contrasts with the real challenge, cutting those inner ropes of anger and craving, untangling the connections of wrong views.
And most importantly, lifting that heavy internal bar of ignorance, that's the real measure of strength.
It's profound. And the commentary adds a little note at the end, doesn't it, about the impact.
It does. It mentions that after hearing this discourse, 500 monks attained arahantship, the highest level of awakening, which is, underlines how powerful and clear this explanation was felt to be.
Amazing. So let's just recap our journey here. We started with this slightly comical scene, right? Two proud Brahmins, they're super bulls.
Trying to pull an impossibly heavy cart, which they failed to do.
Right. The cart stayed put. But the external physical straps, the nadivarata, they broke quite easily.
And the teacher used that moment, that simple observation, to point to something much, much deeper.
The real straps, the ones that truly bind us.
Which he identified as, well, first the nadi of anger and the varat of craving, those emotional ties.
And then adding that other layer, the santana sahanukamo, those connections rooted in deeply held wrong views, mistaken beliefs.
And finally, the biggest obstacle of all, the avijja pale, the heavy bar of fundamental ignorance that blocks our path to understanding.
Which needs to be lifted, Ukita.
Exactly. And the person who achieves all this, cutting the straps, lifting the bar, becoming awakened, Buddha, that person is who the teacher calls a true Brahmin.
It fundamentally shifts the focus from external status or even physical power, like the bulls, to internal liberation.
Inner strength, inner clarity, inner freedom. That's what defines true nobility according to this teaching.
So as we wrap up, maybe something for you, the listener, to consider. Think about that contrast. The bull's immense physical power was useless against the external weight, but the teacher highlights the internal power needed to lift the bar of ignorance.
Yeah, it makes you think.
What internal straps might feel like they're binding you? Maybe it is anger sometimes, or a persistent craving, or perhaps even a view you hold that you suspect isn't quite right, a sanhanya. And what would it feel like? What would it mean for you to lift that bar of ignorance, even just a little, in some area of your life, to see something clearly that felt blocked before?
It's a powerful question stemming from such a seemingly simple story. Really resonates, doesn't it?
It really does. Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive.